Hi there, friends. I'm Scott Wakefield, lead pastor at First Christian Church of Greene County, and I am with
Jess Hudson.
And we're going to have a Coffee
Convo.
Coffee Convos is an opportunity to hear about the work of God in the lives of our friends. And so, Jess, you qualify as a friend. And we are going to especially talk about you receiving a team ball last year. For those who are unfamiliar, we once a year at our team bash, we give out a team ball that's related to our team code. Lots of team. We'll get to that in a bit, but tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got to today and basic bio.
I'm a mom of 4 beautiful children. I've been married to my husband for 15 years. Going on 15 years this year.
Cool.
I'm originally from Florida, unfortunately.
Why unfortunately?
Because it's hot and miserable there and so many people.
I mean, for only 85% of the year.
Yeah. Here there's actual seasons and nature, and you can enjoy being outside.
Cool. What brought you all to Tennessee?
It's beautiful. It was a dream since I was a little girl, and then my husband and I kind of shared in it when we met, and just came to fruition. God, really.
Cool.
We wouldn't be here without him.
So what ages are your kids?
Let's see.
You're getting to the point where you have to think about that.
Yes, because there's 4 of them. My youngest is going to be 4 next month.
Cool.
And then my middle daughter just turned 10, double digits, and I have a 7, almost 8-year-old, and an 11, almost 12-year-old son. So, 3 girls, 1 boy.
You're getting into those teen years.
Yeah.
And we're about to have our second of our 3 go off to college next week. And it's crazy.
Yeah, not looking forward to that as a mom.
It's crazy. Yeah. So we ask everybody, because this is a coffee convo, how do you take your coffee?
Depends on if I'm at home or if I'm out. If I'm at home, usually like a dark French roast, preferably. And I have a dairy allergy, so thank God for vegans. Won't ever make fun of you again.
I will.
But I do like a vanilla coconut creamer specific type, and I actually like honey in my coffee instead of sugar. Just a nice flavor. And out, usually toasted vanilla with oat milk, because that tastes better steamed. And yeah, and
you're very specific about how you.
I'm a coffee snob, definitely. And there has to be an extra shot of espresso in it because it has to actually taste like coffee. I like very light creamer. I want to taste the coffee.
Ooh, that's tough to do, a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, we'll accept that answer. That's good. So we also ask about traditional, curly, or waffle fries.
Oh, okay. So I'm very Irish. So all the potatoes.
Meaning just any kind of.
All the potatoes. And when I didn't have a dairy allergy, dairy was cheese and bacon and all the good stuff was awesome. Now, probably seasoned and waffle.
Okay, cool. And then lastly, for our bio part of this, what is something about you that you're really good at, or you know a lot about, that you're an expert in, or that you really like doing, something like that, that people may not know about you or might surprise them?
I don't know about surprising people, but I love to write. In all different forms.
You've done some of that for us here.
Recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
great.
been wonderful because I get to exercise my gift that God gave me for him now.
Yeah.
and baking. I love to bake. I don't look like the housewife type, but
Nobody says that. Nobody's saying that.
but I do. I love baking, and I'm recently
Cool.
venturing into learning how to bake stuff that is allergy friendly, that actually doesn't taste like you're chewing on salt and sugar and grit and dirt. So
There are a lot of people right now, and I just see this anecdotally as a part of church world. There are a lot of our people who are trying to get into how to do that because lots of allergies and stuff that, is in the food that we don't want to have in it, things like that. But trying to do so that it doesn't taste terrible, which used to be the case with a lot of it.
Yeah, it's come a long, long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I say thank you, vegans, because they've come up with some wonderful things that taste so good. So
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I've had a few things where I thought, you know what, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Most of it, though, I'm still like, you know what, that's pretty bad.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
yes. It's hit or miss. So.
Well, that's cool. So we are here to talk about receiving a team ball. And again, if you're unfamiliar with the practice, it's become a tradition to give a football that's signed by elders and staff that sort of symbolizes we see how the recipient, you, embody this team code maxim. And so team code maxim number 6 is we lead with vulnerability. And here's what the nominations said about you. She's been involved with Regen and has grown so much. She often steps into leadership situations she's originally scared or intimidated by, but trusts the Lord, steps forward, and does great. I've noticed that for sure. And when the nominations came in and that was pointed out, I thought, oh, I've seen that at least a few times that even I saw, and typically I don't see things as well as some of our staff members. So that was definitely something. It says she's become a small group leader in Regen. She pours into her female participants. She's active in her life group community and regularly asks for input and direction so she can improve, which is super cool. And one thing I think that I like about leading with vulnerability that's important, and I think that was part of what I saw in you and this person nominating you, is that it takes courage to do that. So, good job.
Thanks.
How did it feel to receive a team ball? Were you surprised? What was the moment like?
I did not see that coming. I did not see it coming at all. There's even a video that I watched and was like, oh, I was super clueless. Like, everybody around me was all staring at me because I guess they knew.
Yes.
And I'm just like, la da da. And then you said my name and I was just like, no, this is a joke. It's,
Yeah.
Right.
I remember that clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible feeling. I think it's something I've waited for my whole entire life. It was humbling, but beautiful. I needed it, and it was almost like a hug from God. Like, I've seen you all this time.
Yeah. Meaning it named something that you have valued and tried to work at. Something that was indicating something about you that God put in you.
Yeah. I've never seen myself as a vulnerable person. I've always actually, before coming here and Regen, was a very guarded person. Like, people would see me and the first thing they would think is, oh, stay away from her, because I would look.
Because you just remove yourself from those kinds of situations.
Yes. Yeah.
Staying out of the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was just nice for God to, through everyone, to acknowledge and show me, I see you. I see all the hard work you've done. And it was just,
Cool.
I don't know, it just felt like a hug.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it.
No,
It
that's
was
cool.
just, it was beautiful.
No, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
So what has it looked like for you to try to lead with vulnerability? And by lead, I don't think we mean just the Scots or people who are on stage leading. It means we're all called to show that the relationship we have with the Lord, to show that the cross of Christ is a new reality about us. That means we understand grace and we love that we don't have to pretend. And so we can be open with who we really are without being threatened. And that's true for all of us. How has that been something that you've done, tried to do well? How's that worked out for you?
It's definitely grown my confidence, but mostly my confidence in Christ. It's helped my relationship with him because I have to lean on him and depend on him 100% because in my own self, I'm actually very introverted and shy and timid.
You being here right now
Yes, yes, exactly.
is an example of...
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah. So it pushes me to continually lean on him all the time because without him, I can't do what I do.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scriptures talks about, apart from me, you can do nothing.
Yeah.
And so I tell myself that over and over again. And whenever I'm leading these women, I am literally talking to the Holy Spirit in my head. You know, help me, give me the words, the wisdom, let it be from you, not from me.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Why do you think... I think we saw that in you, and we chose you for that. In a couple of the nominations, talked about that because it's clear that it's been work for you to push beyond that limit. Weirdos like me are like, limits, vulnerability. Let's just put it all out there, and who cares if you don't like it? Doesn't always work well, but. It's not natural for all of us in some ways to be vulnerable about us and our stuff. Why do you think it's been something you've had to continue to be intentional and thoughtful, and sometimes it's hard to do? Why do you think it's been that way?
Trauma. Like I used to be a very bold person at one point in my life.
Okay.
Too much, very pushy. And then life broke me. And but I also was that way because I thought I had to be. That was a survival mode for me. Putting on this front that I was big and strong and tough and wasn't afraid of anything, but on the inside I was literally scared of everything. Was a survival mode. And then eventually I got to a point where I couldn't do that anymore. You know, I was just very broken person. And so now it's learning to be that way in a healthy way.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I think that's important because what's cool about what we mean by leading with vulnerability is that when we all are showing others that it's okay, that this is a safe place for them, it's helping them through that same process.
Yeah, and that's what drives me a lot of the time too, is one, it's forgotten, and I'm just so grateful for everything that he's done in my life. And that gratitude pushes me forward, but also, like you said, I want people to feel safe. I want them to know that they can finally let all those things that they've stored up for so long inside of them, let it go and heal and move forward and actually remove those things so that they can have an authentic relationship with Christ, to know him intimately, and that he is just this loving, compassionate, wonderful God and not what life has made us think he is.
Yeah, cool. That's good. We give away team balls and we talk about the team bash because we're really just recognizing everybody who serves. Even you serve in a couple different places in a regular basis, but even for folks who just occasionally serve. And so it's in the context of valuing service and trying to create opportunities for people to serve on the team, and like you said earlier, to experience not just from others around them horizontally, but to experience vertically from God. Hey, this thing you do is meaningful, and I've put this in you, and you can do it well, to help the kingdom grow, to help you grow. And so it's in the context of all that I asked this question about serving. What for you have been some things that serving has helped you grow in? How has it stretched you? How serving helped you grow?
Vulnerability and trusting God.
Yeah.
I did not. I thought I did, but I didn't at all. I tried to be in control of my life because I felt like my life was out of control. So I just tried to hold on to it as much as I can. And now, when you lead and when you serve, you have to depend on Him because other people are depending on you, depending on Him. And so it's really pushed my relationship with God in a really good direction. It's really pushed me to overcome a lot of fears.
Yeah.
And to learn how to connect with people because I always kept people at an arm's length. And
Because
now,
of those fears?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so now I can let people in, but it takes a lot of work and trust and leaning on Him. So
Yeah.
it grows me in so many areas. I couldn't even probably name them all.
Well, you've named a couple that I think are super helpful because for me, I know there are many, many hundreds of people that are connected to us at 3 different locations, and that there are people who are like you are serving and helping lead things, and that I have to have an actual personal me and Jesus relationship every day. I have to have that. I've always known people were depending on some things because of my relationship with them, or things that I'm responsible for. Kids, marriage, family, church, etc. I've always known that. But when you are involved, when any of us is involved in serving with other people side by side, it makes that issue very clear, at least for me, that obviously I have to have my own relationship with Jesus, but also because when I serve, I want to do it from the right reasons and in the right way to help the right way, so that people who are all serving or being helped by that service, that they are doing better because of it, that they're growing. And so I think that's a really helpful piece of it. I've heard a few other folks say that their serving has motivated their Bible reading, their prayer life. And we're talking about just like serving from Sunday to Sunday or Monday to Monday at Regen, things like that. I think that's super good.
Yeah, it definitely transforms your prayer life from selfish to selfless. It really does, because you start finding yourself praying more for the people that you're serving and working with than you do for yourself. And then it's almost like that helps what your needs are in a way.
Yeah.
You know, by praying for others, it's like the Holy Spirit's talking to you about your things.
Oh, yeah.
And working them out, and you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Well, and I feel that way with everything I'm doing, because when I'm working on a sermon or helping a staff thing or coming up with another document that we need for something, or doing training with people or meeting with people, I always think I am not allowed to ask them to do this thing or to grow in this way, or I'm not allowed to present this truth without having worked through it myself. So that has motivated my own prayer life big time in a similar way. Yeah, that's good. you talked about your relationship with God. What was the second thing?
You want me to remember?
How you've grown because of serving?
Oh, trust and vulnerability. Those are the top things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was really good. I'm sure it was. What I was thinking about is you talked about how you've grown in relationships with people and going to them and fostering those relationships, because you would have shied away from it because of those fears.
Yeah.
What convinced you that? Was there anything about the Christian community around you? Was there anything about a particular verse or something you'd been feeling like God has been impressing upon you that motivated you, or that made you feel like it was okay to push beyond those fears? Why was it okay for you to push back against those fears and move forward? What helped you do that?
My mentor. My mentor, Rachel News.
Yeah.
She showed me over and over again Christ's love. She's been such a beautiful example of who Jesus is. And every time I expected to experience rejection or abandonment, she stayed consistent. She's been very consistent. And just a lot of scriptures, I would spend hours in the beginning of my regen process reading scriptures about fear. And just there's so many of them on do not be afraid, but just realizing how many times it's in the Bible, how much and how often, and how gracious God is to put that there so much. If God doesn't want me to be afraid, then why am I? Like, I need to overcome this because he is telling me, like, there's no reason for you to be afraid. I'm here. I'm with you.
Right.
And that's been consistent through everyone that I have met here. Is everyone has been so consistently not rejecting me, not making me feel abandoned, supportive when I expect to be met with abrasive ways or I'm lost for words here, but it doesn't happen. It's always a lot of compassion, love, understanding. They're looking more at what's happening with me, like my brokenness, than they are at you're a sinner or you are a bad person or you made this. They're not focusing on the mistake, they're focusing on the why. And a lot of times that makes me feel safe to not be perfect.
Yeah. And to think about and process through and work through the why in ways that are about your growth, your kids' growth, your family's growth, the people you're serving, people in your group. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, that's one of the most
huge.
beautiful things I've experienced is that I can question things now and I can process, like, why do I do this? Or why did this happen this way? And it's very freeing. It's a much healthier way to look at things.
Yeah. What kind of church experiences had you had, or Christian experiences, Christian community experiences, that were reasons why you felt like you had to keep that barrier there? You don't have to unpack in specific terms.
No, okay.
But because I know I've experienced some of those kinds of things in Christian community or churches.
There was a high expectation of perfectionism. There was a lot of judgment. There was church was not what I always knew it should be. As a child, I always knew that church was supposed to be your safe place. I had that understanding, but it wasn't that way. I felt very condemned and judged, and like if I even made the tiniest mistake, that I was a dirty sinner and was going to be cast out. And I can't even tell you how many times I've rededicated my life to Christ and thinking that this is going to save me. Like I had no concept of what salvation actually was until I came here. Before, it was all just trying to save myself constantly, and that wasn't the right focus to have, but that was what I was taught by what I experienced. Was
that also was that somehow baked into the culture where you would be feeling little indications of that legalism or perfectionism or judgment or however you want to characterize that. Was that something you had just picked up along the way? Or was it also like specific incidents of things that have happened? Because I know sometimes it's just baked into the culture in ways that years later people go, oh, that's what was going on. And then sometimes people have particular difficult, traumatic, painful kinds of instances. Was it one or the other? Was it both?
I think it was a little bit of both. There's definitely specific incidents.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I think that God has been gracious to me in giving me that underlying gut instinct that something was off, that something wasn't right, that what I was seeing was not the Jesus that I saw in the Bible. And I think that the little girl in me held on to that all these years. And so I have had this, I don't want to say idea, but this belief that of how the church should be a hospital. It should be a place where we can come and feel safe to unload our burdens. And I mean, that's the way that Jesus was, stuttering.
That's good.
That he just, to me, Jesus felt like this guy you could go and talk to and give you a hug and sit down and listen to you and love you and understand you, you know? And compassion, full of, he felt like someone who wanted to know what was behind why you did what you did, not,
I've always thought he was trying to get at people's hearts.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And we can focus on a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
On top of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So, and then I came here and then I started actually experiencing it. I'm like, I've been saying this the whole time. Where have you guys been my whole life? So I think that FCC is a beautiful example of the church being a hospital, a place of safety and healing. That's
what we are trying to do. It's how we reach people. It's how we are used by God to reach people. You mentioned Rachel as a mentor, which I knew, but I'm glad you mentioned her. Are there other people who, and not necessarily just here, name people if they're here, but are there other people who have been mentors or people for you that that helped you in this way push through those fears, go beyond the barriers, be vulnerable yourself? Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say that the men here at FCC have been a huge impact on me and help, because my ideas or experiences of outside of here they've been harsh. And here it was nice to see men who actually allow themselves to be vulnerable, to have feelings and emotions, compassion, gentleness.
I have no problem having feelings.
Yeah, mad respect for that.
It's a little much for people, actually, for myself at times.
Yeah. And honestly, the way that you preach sometimes and you allow yourself to be vulnerable and let us see the softer side of you, it's been really helpful for me because I've not experienced that with a pastor before. And it was like, this guy really cares. He really loves his people. And I really appreciated that. It was a humbling experience for me. Bethany Hodge has been incredible. She's really taught me a lot about friendship. And
she's very intentional.
Yes.
About that kind of thing.
Yeah, and she sees things that other people don't, and she has a way of explaining things that just makes sense to me, and I can connect to that, and you feel like you're seen and understood by her.
Cool.
Sonia Higgs has been really amazing too. She's the one who got me to actually do my commencement because I was putting it off, and yeah.
She's really good at coming alongside. When there's that moment of, I don't know if I can, in ways that are not, in ways that are coming alongside.
It's very gentle, not pushy. Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, suck it up. What is it? Do it.
Yeah.
That's not always that helpful.
Yeah. There's so many people, I couldn't even name them all. Like, really, the culture as a whole has been life-changing for me.
Lovely.
Mm.
So, any other things for you when it comes to serving that you've seen that God has used to help people grow as a result of you being involved in serving, whether that's your own way that you've written something or been a part of a regen group or helped in serving in some ways, whether that's you or you've just been able to see it more because you are serving. In other words, if people aren't serving, they don't get a good view into how sometimes God's working beyond what they see because they're not there to see it. What are some ways that you've seen people grow and the fruit that is born from serving?
Ways that I've seen other people grow?
Yeah.
Definitely a change of heart.
Mm.
I've seen people's hearts be more compassionate and understanding instead of judgmental. I've seen confidence. A lot of people who, like me, were like, oh, I'm not doing that, you're crazy. And then they do.
Yeah.
And they do it well. And I think those that have to overcome that fear often end up being the strongest in those areas.
Because they've had to work at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen so many people's relationships just get so much more intimate with God and their gratitude, just so grateful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So good.
Mm-hmm.
So we always end on these last two. What is God teaching you lately? And what are you excited or encouraged about?
Ongoing, he's teaching me about trust and vulnerability. That just is continuous. One, because I have a lot of work to do. I've had a lot of work to do, and I also believe that we should always be a work in progress, that we should never stop trying to grow, especially in our relationship with God.
Yeah.
So trusting him is a huge one, and just learning that I don't need to be afraid because he's got my back. So excited, just watching the light come back on people's eye and come back on in people's eyes, and watching their relationship with him grow. I'm always excited about that. I love watching people that are broken come back to life, and I'm excited in what he's doing in my life. And it's really cool to reflect now. Like, I'm in a place where I can actually reflect where I was and where I am.
Yeah.
And that's always so encouraging.
Yeah.
And to know that he's not done with me yet, and that I'm still a work in progress, and he's got better things for me than I could ever imagine. Yeah. That is so exciting to me.
Cool. So good. Well, we're glad you are on the team.
Thanks.
Yes.